My name is Derek Boyd Hankerson, and I am a producer with FirstCoast.tv. I have the pleasure of being with Mr. Niger Innis, a national civil rights leader who has been seen on CNN, The Hannity Show, Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher, and Mr. Innis is in Putnam County. Why Putnam County, Niger?
Well, why not? I would say. I can tell you a great deal as to why. These last few days I've been in this wonderful county and city of Palatka. I must tell you, I've been revived in my faith in the American people and my faith that the struggles that my ancestors and your ancestors went through to make this country a country where blacks and whites and Latinos and Asians can work together as Americans, that you all are, if you're not there, you're darn near close, and you're a lot closer than other parts of the country. It's an amazing, amazing city, amazing county. I came down here invited by the Tea Party of Putnam County that you're the chairman of, by the Republican Executive Committee that you're affiliated with as well, and I was happy to do so. I think it is most important that we as conservatives, those, I don't care if you call yourself Tea Party, Republican, Conservative, Democrat, Conservative, Independent, that those of us that believe in our Constitution, that believe in individual liberty, that we have a responsibility to become missionaries.
Right.
And to become missionaries of those ideas and
Right.
ideals and promote those ideals to communities that have not had access to them.
Speaking of access, I know that similar to your father, Roy Innis, that you were involved in the Congress of Racial Equality. What is CORE?
The Congress of Racial Equality, Derek, is one of the oldest and largest civil rights organizations in the country. It was established in 1942. For those of your viewers who are into movies, they might have seen the movie Mississippi Burning. Mississippi Burning was a dramatization of a real incident that occurred in Mississippi in 1964 when two whites from New York and one black from Mississippi were registering blacks to vote in a CORE program called Freedom Summer. So CORE was working with Dr. Martin Luther King and with SCLC and the NAACP. They were a critical component. They are the godfathers, if you will. The Congress of Racial Equality is one of the founding fathers of the modern civil rights movement.
Speaking of civil rights and CORE, did you know that Palatka and Putnam County had such civil rights history prior to your arrival?
Not before I met you, and not before I had the pleasure of being taken to A. Philip Randolph's daddy's church, which was established in the early part of the 20th century, right in Crescent City, which is an important city within Putnam County. I had no idea of the richness of the civil rights. I should have known now, because I studied it when I went to school. I studied the era of Reconstruction, and the era right after the Civil War, and the history of the American South. And I knew instinctively that this region of the country, Putnam County probably has a lot more in common with Georgia than it does with Miami.
Yes.
And I just instinctively knew that, first of all, slavery had been entrenched here, and hence, because slavery had been entrenched here, black folk had been entrenched here. And after the Civil War and after freedom, that there were a number of upward mobility Americans, newly freed, or the sons or grandsons or granddaughters of newly freed slaves that were climbing that economic ladder and capturing the American dream. And that's why it's such an inspiration to me as a black American to see what kind of progress folk made that just a generation before had been in bondage.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up bondage, because I'm sure you know that not all blacks were slaves and not all slaves were blind.
That I do know.
Which brings me to the question, what type of progress do you think that we have made with reference to civil rights in America?
Unbelievable progress. No country has gone through as quickly and relatively peacefully this social revolution that the United States has gone through. I mean, just in Obama's lifetime, or our president of the United States, in his lifetime, or certainly in the lifetime of his mother and his father, there's parts of this country where, he couldn't get a cup of coffee at a lunch counter, And now we have an elected and then re-elected president that, is of African ancestry. That is amazing tribute. Quite frankly, as amazing as that tribute is, I actually think what's far more powerful and far more, I wouldn't say important, but I would say symbolic of the change we made is actually Tim Scott.
Sure.
South Carolina, right. The cradle of the Confederacy. Absolutely. The Confederacy started in South Carolina. Fort Sumter was in South Carolina.
The first shot was fired. Fort Sumter, South Carolina.
Okay.
Right.
And Tim Scott, when he was elected to the Senate in 2014, got more votes than the senior Senator Lindsey Graham, who had been there for decades.
Well, interesting enough that you bring that up. During the debates in Congress, Charles Sumner was beat on the Senate floor from a congressman who come over to the Senate
from South Carolina. Yes,
to beat him. When they were discussing civil rights issue, which brings me to the last question. How has your trip to Putnam County changed your view of rural America and those civil rights contributions from citizens of Florida?
It hasn't really changed my view, because I know that most of the nonsense that comes out of the establishment media is just that nonsense. And I'm just normally suspicious of stereotypes that they project, because I usually know if they're projecting one type of stereotype, the truth is probably quite different. So it didn't change my view, but I will say that it has enhanced my view that most Americans, black, white, Latino, Asian, are decent Americans.
Yes.
And that there are probably pockets of Palatka and Putnam all across this country where quietly, below the radar screen, without fanfare, without big media, black folk and white folk working together to save this country. And I see that here in Palatka, I see that here in Putnam, and it's inspiring to me.
Niger, I want to personally thank you, and I know that I thank you for my good friend Tom Williams, who is the chairman of the Putnam County Republican Executive Committee, and also from members of the Putnam County Tea Party, for 3 days of
fabulous days.
Wonderful opportunity to reconnect with you, and we look forward to working with you here in Putnam County. And thank you so much for that. This is not the last
time you've seen this ugly mug. I'm coming back to Putnam County. You guys cannot get rid of me that easily.
Well, thank you.
I want to thank you very much
sir.
You've been a gracious host.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.